Support for Iowa Catholic Radio and Making It Personal is provided by Sarah Vocations Ministry. Learn more at joinserra.org.
Making It Personal with Bishop William Joensen on Iowa Catholic Radio and iowacatholicradio.com.
Welcome to Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen. I'm Jean Till, and on today's show, we're visiting with Kirby Gepsen and Ryland Jones. They are the coordinators for Utfeedum at Dowling Catholic.
Kind of looking forward to hearing more as kind of an update.
Yeah.
It's been a while
since it has been growing.
Yeah,
so
the Holy Spirit is rumbling in beautiful ways. So as it will be today on the April 5th, here we are, April already. Still a few weeks away from Easter, though, in this late season. Yeah. So, the Easter vigil will be a little bit later for many parishes since we want to allow the fall of darkness. But with the good women of the Diocesan Council of Catholic Women today at St. John the Apostle, Norwalk, for their annual women's conference. Talk about a recharge of great grace, those powerful women of faith coming together. A little substitution there on the main keynote speaker, Leanne Thiemann, will be saying yes to God with faith, hope, and love. But the sharing at table, the sharing at the Eucharistic table, my privilege of celebrating Mass with those holy women. So St. John the Apostle, Norwalk. And I bet, even though they like advanced registration, to drop in would not be a bad thing. And then I'll be up at Our Lady's Immaculate Heart tomorrow night. Father James Ahankara invited me to participate and present at their Hour of Amazing Grace at 6 p.m. Our Lady's Immaculate Heart. So a little prayer, a little praise, music, and a reflection. So the Lenten spirit continues. We know the people out at St. Patrick and Imogene are going to continue to be enriched in their faith. John Wynn, who kind of a director of social justice with Catholic Charities and the diocese, will speak to unity and diversity, embracing universal brotherhood and sisterhood next Tuesday, the 8th at 7 p.m. at St. Patrick and Imogene. And Imogene's done really well in terms of kind of creating moments or enriching their people in the faith, which are always occasions then to deepen and cultivate their connections with each other in these moments of encounter. So feeding the mind, but feeding the soul with that deep sense there in the community of robust faith at St. Patrick. We'll be at another St. Patrick on Friday night. I think there was a little error in the mirror, so hopefully nobody showed up last night, hoping to experience the Chrism Mass. So it is actually Friday, April 11th at 5 p.m. at St. Patrick and Council Bluffs. And so priests will gather. There'll be an afternoon of reflection led by Archbishop Lucas, and then the Mass itself where the holy oils are consecrated for all the sacramental graces throughout the diocese. Priests will be renewing their priestly commitment, and it's just a great moment that prepares us for the pilgrimage of Holy Week and all that we go about.
It's a beautiful Mass.
It really is, and it's humbling for me as a bishop to be the one whom God uses to consecrate those oils, that blowing of the Holy Spirit over the chrism and the mixturing there as well, but obviously balm for the sick, the oil of catechumens, and all the many different sacraments that are there. We are approaching those sacred days, and we know Jesus' face is set toward Jerusalem, and we hear in our readings throughout these liturgies of the division that exposed. I think that was already latent in many people's hearts, and so people would even say Jesus was in league with the devil by his healing power, and that the calling good evil basically is what they're doing. And when we do that, we become pawns of the one who wants to set us against each other. Because to foment division, to provoke people to call evil good and good evil are part and parcel of the standard toolkit of the prince of this world. None of us wants to succumb to those most blatant lies that would neutralize the mission and work of the Church, or paralyze that personal expression of our own call to holiness given in baptism, our own capacity to cultivate connections. We invite the Spirit of Jesus during these latter weeks of Lent to convict us, to attune us to those subtle ways in which we reduce others as a form of occult compensation for our own felt moral and spiritual limitations, our own sinfulness. We welcome the Word who searches our hearts, enabling us to make an honest assessment of ourselves, to note the triggers of our irritation that may well be rooted in that mysterious inner unresolved conflict between the person we are and the person we want to be. It's a grace to recognize the false interpretations we make of ourselves and others by comparison. Those who denounced Jesus being Satan's tool might have derived momentary consolation, but they weren't going to find peace. And so we look to Jesus during these latter weeks. We take his word to heart. We want to be known as gatherers, and we surrender our need to impress others by our achievements or even by our acts of devotion. We love our enemies without demonizing them. We do good to those who would otherwise dismiss us, and we make amends where we've slandered others, so that we can create a spiritual house where people come together, touched by the finger of God.
We're going to take a quick break, and when we return, we'll be visiting with Kirby Gepsen and Ryland Jones, the coordinators of Ut Fidem at Dowling Catholic. You're listening to Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen on the Iowa Catholic Radio Network and the Spirit Catholic Radio Network. Welcome back to Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen. And on today's show, we're visiting with Kirby Gepsen and Ryland Jones, coordinators for Ut Fidem at Dowling Catholic.
So great to have you, Ryland and Kirby. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, we've kind of talked in previous years, but it's been a while to kind of hear how Ut Fidem's unfolded and what's happening not only Dowling, but maybe even beyond, how the footprint has been extended in that as well. So Ut Fidem, those Latin words that don't just trip off the tongue, is there a potential name change forthcoming or not?
Yes, there is. We're transitioning the name to Serva Fidem, which is just a more direct translation to keep the faith, which comes from 2 Timothy 4:7. I fought the good fight, I have finished the race, I've kept the faith. So just the direct Latin translation more so than Ut Fidem.
All right, finishing the race. That should speak to all the athletes among us as well. But so Ryland, you've been on board with the Ut Fidem for how long?
So this is my second year. And we're coming to an end of that. So, yeah,
okay.
A couple of years now.
And how did the Lord get you to Dowling Catholic High School?
Yeah, the story's crazy. I was born in Kansas, raised in Alaska.
Wow.
Did a little bit of time in the Army.
So it's a direct route to Iowa.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It makes sense.
Yeah.
But after my time in the Army, I went back home to Alaska, where I met my wife, who is a Dowling grad, and she was stationed with the Army up in Alaska. I was selling furniture at the time, and turns out she needed furniture in a house, and that's how we ended up meeting.
Chatted her up?
I did. I didn't sell her a single piece of furniture, but we got married a couple years later, so worked out just fine for me.
This guy's a loser as a salesman, but he's got house potential.
She saw something there, yeah. And but so, of course, fell in love, proposed, moved down here to get married. Weren't sure what we were going to do. At the time, I'd been Catholic for a little over a year, and on our honeymoon, just really felt a call to ministry. Had no idea how to jump into that, but praise God, a lot of opportunity arose with, at the time, Ut Fidem, now Serva Fidem, and I've been loving it ever since. Got working at Dowling, and it's just been an absolute blessing.
Wow. Well, we're glad the winds blew from the west to northwest to bring you down.
Yeah, Great White North.
Yeah. Still have yet to visit you, the fair state. So.
Yeah, do it when you get the chance. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's what I hear. So, and did you have the tattoos at the time? Was that part of the attraction for your wife?
I did. I had less then. I have more now. Funny enough, I have not stopped getting them. But my first ones, when I joined the Army, I started getting some tattoos. I guess you could say it was a cultural thing with the Army. But
do the women get tattoos too? Typically,
some do. My wife has tattoos. Hers are actually much nicer than mine. Okay. She has better taste than me, I think, and chose a better talented tattoo artist. But yeah, we both do, and I've continued to get some. I think the students at Dowling really, some are fascinated. They love it. They're like, "Your parents let you do that?" I was like, "Well, I was 20 when I decided to.
Not when you were there.
Yeah. It's like I did leave home first. But,
okay. Well, wonderful. And your wife's first name is?
Hannah.
Hannah. We give her a shout out here.
Jerome, now Hannah Jones.
So we'll give her a shout out here. So thank you for the power of love to bring you here. And Kirby, your love and your life with your husband now, life is happening.
Yes, it is. Yes, we had a baby 11 days ago. Today's her due date, but she came a little early, so we're excited about that.
Well, we're happy.
Yes.
Because otherwise you'd be like, not here.
Right, no.
Was it, because Dowling women were in the girls' state championship basketball, that kind of quickened things along?
Yeah,
right?
My heart rate was up. Yes, exactly.
So, and your little baby, will be baptized by your Uncle Dan.
Yes.
Dan Kirby, you
yes.
said, or you're telling me.
She will be, the week after Easter. So.
All right. So sleep is kind of an optional commodity right now.
Yes.
Yeah. And taking a little leave from Ut Fidem, or are you?
Yes. Yeah. So I'm off for the rest of the year, and then I'm going to stay home with Claire, with our daughter, when so I won't be back next school year, but I'm going to still mentor. I have 2 groups. I have a junior girl group and a sophomore girl group. So I'm going to come still mentor them and, come to primetime mass probably at Dowling some too. And just do what I can, because I went to Dowling. So Dowling's just a special place for me. And I always want to be connected to it in some way. So yeah.
So you're a Dowling alum and everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ut Fidem, Serva Fidem alum also. So I was a senior at Dowling when Ut Fidem was started by Addie Magruder. I joined a group April of my senior year, so I wasn't even in it yet at this time of my senior year, but we met until August, till I went to college, and it just set me up for success going to college, of finding focus missionaries when I got to college and knowing I wanted to keep my faith a priority, not just let it be something I do on Sunday, but learned how to pray, learned how to and then just like the resources when I got to college, that was very helpful to have too.
And you went to college at?
Yes, University of Missouri.
All right.
Mizzou, yes.
Not just, this Catholic ghetto by any means,
right? No,
They have a very strong Newman Center there in the Diocese of Jeff City, but
so. Lots of St. Louis people too, lots of Catholics in St. Louis, so yeah.
I always think of journalism when I think of Mizzou.
Yes, that's why I went. And then God had different plans. So I think I knew I would do ministry like freshman year of college. I knew I probably wouldn't use my degree like directly, but it's definitely helped me so much in this job at Ut Fidem the last 3 years. So yeah.
So Jesus speaking to you, respectively, Ryland, on your honeymoon, and here for you as well. So, did you feel like you were a guinea pig with Ut Fidem as a student?
I don't think so. So Addie was actually my mentor, and Addie is the one who started the ministry at Dowling. She was hired to start a ministry that helped Dowling students keep their faith after high school, and it was just great. She was just a couple of years older than me and was relatable, and she had gone to college and made mistakes and figured it out. So that was really helpful to just have someone to look up to who was just a little bit older than me. And she was learning too. Like, I think she would say, like looking back how she learned, that was one of her first groups. So, it's like really cool to now have continue that relationship with her and work so closely with her through the ministry. So, yeah.
Wow. So Ryland Kirby's talking about how it helped her to kind of orient herself in the university life and find where her faith could flourish and not just check out at that point too. You mentioned that you became Catholic while in the military still? Or?
So a little bit afterwards, actually, a few years after.
Was the military good or bad for your faith? It can go cut either way, right?
Yeah, for many people, it was great for my faith. Mostly due to just some of the people I was able to meet. A man by the name of Lieutenant Charles Smith kind of took charge of my platoon in 10th Mountain Division right before our deployment to Afghanistan. And we had an influx of officers kind of coming in and taking over different roles as the old officers kind of stepped out. And there was something very different about him. I realize now it was because to this day, he's one of the most Catholic men I've had the opportunity to know. And at that point in time, I had actually kind of fallen away from my Protestant faith. I was raised non-denominational, evangelical Christian, and really at that point in time was just searching for answers. I'd fallen away to the point where I wasn't even really praying, but Lieutenant Smith really just took me right under his wing. He mentored me and really just got me praying again, encouraged me to really continue pursuing my relationship with God. And from there, leaving the Army, trying to find answers, then meeting my now wife, it's just God was leading me in the right direction. And everything seemed to line up really well and really beautifully. And it's one of the best choices I've ever made in my entire life was finding my way into the Catholic faith and really, really growing in it.
Wonderful, wonderful. My exposure to Ut Fidem and kind of with Addie and all that's happened, but it seems very important to have a male and a female kind of as point persons in this. Is that true, Kirby?
Yes, I would think so. I'm intimidated by high school boys for sure. So it's kind of nice. I don't have to,
I love your transparency.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's like the college male quarterback who said, "Women are scary."
Yes, they are. They're a little scary. So kind of nice in that way. But I think too, just having someone to relate to, kind of like I was talking about Addie for me, just someone who you can see yourself in maybe in like 5 years, but then also, or 10 years or however long, but then also someone who can be transparent and be like, I haven't always been this way. I think that's a misconception for high school students sometimes. It's like, oh, you were born like being really good at living your faith, like you were born wanting to go to mass all the time, or whatever misconception they have.
You
but
drank the Kool-Aid early.
Yes, two priest uncles, like that's what happened. No. But yeah, I think those sorts of things really help for the respective like male and female to just like gain their trust and help them understand that it's not just a girl thing. I think it can be a hard thing for boys, like being faithful isn't just for girls. Like boys can do it too, and boys can talk about hard things too, or emotional things, whatever that might be. So
Okay. So I have a question, Kirby. So it started when you were a senior, right?
Yes.
That was the first year?
Yes.
What year was that?
2017, 2018. So graduated in 2018.
Okay. So, we're not even 10 years old.
Right.
And Addie has now moved on to a broader role.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So talk about the growth and how it happened, because it happened really fast.
Yes. So at Dowling, we have grown a lot. I think the first year there were 17 groups and about 100 kids. And right now we're at, I'm bad at math. We're at 63 groups and over 300 students. So about 340 students, I believe. So yeah, that by itself, we're not even to the end of the year. And we've grown that much. And then we're also, Serva Fidem is at 8 other high schools in the United States. So 3 others in Iowa, Dubuque, Wallard, yes, Cedar Rapids, Xavier, and then Mason City, Newman are the 3 others in Iowa. And then 2 in Michigan, 1 in Wisconsin, 1 in Oklahoma, 1 in Denver in Colorado. So yeah, Addie's now overseeing all the new schools. So kind of just like checking in with them and making sure that they're running the ministry how it ought to be run. So yeah, that's been really cool to be able to see the growth and like have a front row seat from the beginning is also awesome.
Yeah, I was talking to a mom that had an 8th grader, and I'm like, oh, feed them. They're going to be at Dowling next year. But can freshmen participate? Or is it sophomore, junior, senior? What's the?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, freshmen absolutely can participate. The way we structure it with freshmen is we want to give them time to settle, of course, into their new high school careers. It can be a very overwhelming time. So we tend not to start freshman groups until 2nd semester of school. We want them to be established in their friend groups or their new friend groups, in the activities they do, because it just helps promote success for their group all throughout their high school, throughout all the years they're there. Of course, we allow students to build their own groups. It's not Kirby or I just plucking kids from random areas and putting them all together. We oftentimes approach students and say like, hey, who are your friends? Who are your teammates? Who are the people you choose to spend your time with? That's who we want them to build their groups with. And so starting 2nd semester for freshmen really gives them more opportunity to have those friends and teammates and things like that.
The mentors. I'm sorry, Bishop. This is
your show. Yeah,
this is a Gene Till show today.
I can just kick back and
the mentors. You pull those from. I mean, I know of some grandmas that are mentors, and I know some moms are mentors. How do you get them? How do you reach them?
Right,
and you need men.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We reach them; they reach us. It's really. There's so many ways in which I've come into contact with amazing, personally men in the community that are just, you can tell they have all they need to just offer up their lives and their mentorship to the students at Dowling. I have had guys approach me right after Mass. They're like, oh, your tattoos, you're the tall Ut Fidem guy, and I'm like, yes, I am.
Who needs a first name?
Right. I've had wives reach out and say, hey, my husband wants to do this, and in whatever way I interact with them, of course, I invite them out and we have a meeting and sit down and I just let them know kind of the lay of the land. I try and understand their faith journey because they're all so unique. And it's just a wonderful, wonderful process. I've spoken at different men's groups where I've gotten mentors to come forth. I've literally received like guys, I think one guy like out in the mall, like he just recognized who I was, and we started talking from there.
So you get a wife at the furniture store and a mentor at the mall.
You know,
I see a trend.
I'm a man of the people, I guess. I'm just out and about doing my thing.
Were you out scouring at the men's conference in early March?
I was. So I did. I spoke with many guys. Some of them were mentors that are actually going to return. They've mentored for us in the past, and they're feeling called back to it after their last groups have graduated. And but yes, the men's conference was a feeding ground. It was wonderful, and for so many reasons. But really, there were a lot of men. I could tell that they're just on fire with their faith. That's one of our main requirements. You know, we want on fire Catholics who are just feeling called to share the love of God, you know, and minister to our students who do absolutely need it.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm hearing, Kirby and Ryland, is that for mentors, you know, like you say, you could be 50 years older than the high school students. You could be 5 years older. I mean, and it's about the chemistry and the charism of their faith, right?
Yes, for sure. Yeah, we have, I would say for women, it's like the 22 to 27, and then we kind of have a break when moms have younger kids, and then we have then like a surge of 50 to 65, you know. So of course we have exceptions of that, you know, 40s and 30s in the middle, but yeah, it's can they give 1 hour a week, and then of course prayer for their students as well, I think is the big thing. So
all right, well, thank you.
We're going to take a quick break, and when we return, we'll continue visiting with Kirby Gepsen and Ryland Jones, coordinators for Ut Fidem at Dowling Catholic. You're listening to Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen on the Iowa Catholic Radio and the Spirit Catholic Radio Network. Welcome back to Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen.
So good to have you with us, Ryland and Kirby. It just seems that the social phenomenon of disconnection is pervasive for so many, even though there might be social media connections. What's your take on the pulse at Dowling Catholic? And I'm not trying to be critical of Dowling, but
Sure.
How is that manifested in your experience?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, looking at our modern world, it is undeniable. Even though technologically we're more connected than ever before, there seems to be a lot of loneliness amongst that, especially in the person-on-person realm of things. I think that is something where Serva Fidem really thrives. One of our main goals is to give all of our groups just a place where the students can feel seen, they can feel heard, they can realize they're in a position to really build meaningful relationships, both with the mentor they're working with, but also with their peers and the groups and their peers and other, you know, Serva Fidem groups. And really, there's a need for it. Like I said, there's a lot of loneliness in our modern age that we seem to be running into. And I think a part of that is that disconnectedness keeps us from practicing our faith together. We are born as creatures that love community. I think we need it. We see the negative effects it has when people don't participate in community aspects of their life. And so by being able to come together, even if it is just once a week for an hour a week in the mornings before school, to really build on those relationships, it helps someone understand they are a person, they are a child of God, and they absolutely do have a place in this world, even as cluttered and disconnected sometimes and distracting it can be.
Beautiful.
So, Kirby, I'm taking off on what Ryland said. How do you do that in the small group? I mean, is it, who am I going to go to prom with, and how do I have that conversation?
Yeah.
Or is it,
Do you have question prompts or?
what happens?
Yes. Yeah. So a little bit of both. I would say, I know my junior girls love to chat. So if I let them talk about prom for an hour, they would talk about prom for an hour for sure, which is good. And sometimes that's needed to build the trust and build the rapport with the mentor. Just a side note for them, they were so cute. They made me like a care package for me at our last meeting. They gave it to me for maternity leave, which was great. So just like a sign that the rapport is there, because we've taken the time to, yes, talk about God, of course, but then also just like get to know each other. And then with just more expansion of Serva Fidem, we have an executive director now. So Nathan Beacom is the executive director of Serva Fidem, and one of the big things he's been working on is he calls them investigations. So like a guide of topics to go through with groups. So we have one made already, and our mentors have it. So just like what's the point of it all? Kind of starting with like, does God even exist? And if he does, like, okay, why does that matter to me as a teenager in Iowa, you know? And who is Jesus, and why the church, and who is the Holy Spirit, and who am I? All those questions as it relates to our faith. And I think, that the prompts help the mentors for sure, but then also just helps us all be on the same page that all of the students are learning and getting the same formation. So, a little bit of both.
Even though it's not so rigorous. Oh, this is week 29, and you should be talking about this.
Yes, exactly.
Right?
And
there will be a test.
Yes, right. No tests for sure. But yeah, and sometimes, who is God will take 3 weeks, and that's great. We want that. We want them to like really learn those things. And you'll probably come back to that information later, like as you progress in high school. So we're working on a prayer one next. So like how to pray, which I think is probably the most foundational piece of discipleship, because the point of this is, yes, it's the mentor and the student, but it's also ultimately discipleship with Jesus is what we'd like them to have, their own prayer life where they can be directed by God, not, a mentor, so they can do that for the rest of their life, keep the faith.
Wow, so many graces radiating out from these small groups and everything else. And we're winding down our time. But maybe sometimes the life existential challenges, so there could be a referral to professionals who might help them in that way. But that sounds very good. So, I guess I have to say thank you for your time with us today. Kirby, we've known each other a little bit in various venues. And Ryland now, the gentle giant that you are, if I come across you in a dark alleyway, I won't be afraid.
Don't worry. Absolutely. Don't be afraid.
So thank you for your ministry and mission that you've taken up, and really helping these encounters and connection, friendships, and communion in Christ. So thank you for cultivating that through Ut Freedom.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
This has been another edition of Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen. Thank you to our guests and to all of our listeners in Iowa, and Nebraska, Wisconsin, or wherever you may be listening to the Iowa Catholic Radio Network and the Spirit Catholic Radio Network.
You can hear Making It Personal with Bishop William Joensen every week on Iowa Catholic Radio and iowacatholicradio.com.
Support for Iowa Catholic Radio and Making It Personal is provided by Sarah Vocations Ministry. Learn more at joinserra.org.